Welcome to the Freedom Founder Podcast. I'm your host, Zach Duggar. Now, have you ever experienced setbacks in life? Have you ever experienced working through a transition or a change to doing something new? Well, my guest today has experienced a bit of both. He's experienced continuing to follow success after setback, but also working towards new opportunities and new goals in life and career and business. So, Dan, I want to welcome you to the show today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Zach. I've enjoyed getting to know you, and I'm definitely excited to do this together.
Absolutely, and I'm also appreciative that Dan is also a fellow Michigan resident. So I was going to
That's
use the
right.
term Michigander, but there's a debate. Some people use Michiganian, which I think sounds odd. Some people use Michigander, but I also think that sounds odd. So fellow Michigan resident will work.
There you
But
go.
Dan, as this is a show about entrepreneurship, we'd like to talk about a little bit of your experience in that realm and what you've done as far as establishing yourself in the area of business endeavor, because it's something that can be done when you're working a full-time job. It can be something that's done when you're working a part-time job. It can become your main thing. Talk to us a little bit about your story as far as the entrepreneurial journey goes.
Yeah, sure. So, I usually like to start that story about 20 years ago. That's
Yeah,
really where I got my first start
absolutely.
personally in the entrepreneurial, world. However,
Yep.
I would have to say that, as just an individual, really it started a long time before that because, my father was an entrepreneur. He
Okay.
owned his own business. He owned pharmacies in the city of Detroit. Um, my bubby, my grandmother, who is almost 98 years old, and thank God is
Excellent.
doing tremendously well. She was an entrepreneur in a certain sense. While running her family, she was also on the side buying houses, fixing them, selling them, all
Yep.
that. So I would say that the entrepreneurial spirit is definitely in my blood. In
Yeah.
terms of where it started to really manifest itself in my day to day is back in 2005, I helped to start a company with some friends
Okay.
called Disability Made Easy, which is a
Yeah.
barrier-free home modification company still in existence today. The company is designed to, renovate homes and make them handicap accessible for individuals with terminal illness or disability. And
Yeah.
I did the sales and marketing. That's really been my background for the most part, for much of my career. And I got to watch and help this business grow and really create something meaningful,
Yeah.
which to me was an incredible experience. After that, I spent some time as a development director for a large
Okay.
Jewish day school doing fundraising.
Hmm.
So nothing entrepreneurial there, so to speak. I was kind of in charge of my own, book of donors, so to speak.
Yeah. Yep.
But really, wasn't a great fit for me because it didn't give me the opportunity to express that entrepreneurial spirit
You
as much as I'd
sure?
like.
Right.
After that, I spent some time as a sales director at a title company.
Okay.
Again, helping to build somebody else's business. And eventually, I wound up at Amazon as a business development
Okay.
executive.
Yep.
Again, and that's the epitome of corporate America working hard, not seeing
Yeah.
the benefits, commensurate with the effort. And all the while, I have to add, for many years prior to this point, in this chronology, I was doing entrepreneurial things on the side. I was buying
Okay.
properties, renovating them, reselling them, always doing something on the side.
Yep.
And eventually, when I left Amazon, I went full time into house flipping, essentially,
Okay.
buying 2, 3, or 4 properties at a time, renovating multiple properties, getting bigger and bigger, building crews, buying equipment, buying
Yeah.
trucks, and that was an incredible experience for me. I saw a lot of success, and then towards the end, as I was kind of transitioning out of that, I definitely saw some major setbacks, which we can talk about.
Yeah.
And at that point in my life is when I transitioned into commercial real estate brokerage, which is where
Okay.
I've landed and which is where I'll stay.
Yep.
And although I'm not an owner of the brokerage where I work, I would say that I'm able to flex my entrepreneurial muscles as much as I want. My
Yeah.
business is my business, and what I put in is going to definitely directly correlate to what I get out. And
Yes.
I've really found a happy medium here, having the support, of other entrepreneurs who have built something that I believe in, right? While at the same time having the freedom to conduct my business in the way that I think is best, again, with that support of others who are incredibly successful, at the same
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's quite the length of journey. I mean, in regards to your early childhood experience, knowing that you grew up with that being part of your family history, as having ownership of businesses, even going back to your grandmother and, and people who have been in your life for long periods of time. And I really do find a lot of value in that. I think people don't think about and consider the value that people have in our shaping or influencing how we operate and how we think. So
Yep.
that's amazing to have that experience as your foundation. And then as you got into flipping houses, well, actually stepping back, that disability made easy. Just out of curiosity, why that business? That's something that is really targeted in a certain niche and focused on individuals who have a specific need. And so
Yeah.
why that business?
So also personal story there. I mean, I
Yeah.
was I was just out of college trying to figure out what to do next. Didn't have a real
Yep.
plan. And my best friend's older brother was starting a company. And what was the impetus for this company? So, just a lot of great memories. But growing up as a child, I grew up on the same street as my friends that I keep mentioning,
Yep.
and their father Joe was like a second dad to me. I mean, just
Yeah.
such an incredible individual in every way. Unfortunately, I believe it was in the late '90s. Joe was diagnosed with ALS,
Okay.
which is also known as Lou Gehrig's disease. And we watched. I didn't see it as much as my friends did, but we
Hmm.
watched. Joe struggle not only with the illness, but on top of that, having to renovate his home to make it fitting for him, right? Because there's so
Yeah.
many things that when somebody goes through, God forbid, a situation like that, there's so many changes that have to be made to their lifestyle, right? And so much coping that has to go on.
Yeah.
But in addition to that, you have to make changes to your environment, right? That might be as simple as some grab bars being installed in your shower or bathroom, all the way up
Hmm.
to a ramp or a stair glide, like a form of an elevator,
Yep.
to transport you from one floor to the next. Bathrooms that might have been perfect for someone who's able-bodied and walking around, well, when they're in a wheelchair, they don't work, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
just seeing that and seeing that frustration and seeing that challenge of having to deal with one contractor for the grab bars and one for the stair glide and one for the ramp and one for the roll-in shower.
Yep.
We decided that it was a great idea to create this one-stop shop. And again, this was my friend's business. They brought me in to
Yep.
do the sales and marketing, but it was very meaningful to me because I knew, I love Joe and I miss him. And to be
Yeah.
able to help and to help other people have a more comfortable lifestyle who are struggling with difficult situations was very meaningful. And we saw a need for it. There really wasn't a one-stop shop in Michigan. There had been
Yeah.
one, but they had recently gone out of business. And
Yep.
we just decided, like, let's go full steam ahead. And I think that because we had this greater mission, this greater purpose, it wasn't just like, oh, this is a cool way to make money. It was really found
Right.
on the premise of this is a need. People need this. We've seen this
Yes.
firsthand. It really
Yes.
made it easy to work hard.
Yes, absolutely. I think that when you have a real specific purpose and drive and mission to what you're doing, it makes it much easier to do the work that's necessary to get the job done. And yes,
Yeah.
you are making money doing this, but you're also providing a specific support to individuals. And I would say that still carries out with what you're doing now and what you did with flipping houses. I mean, those are areas where there is a need to address, and somebody's got to come in and do this work. And when you can help fill those gaps, that is a big help and support to that community. And so let's go
Sure.
back to that flipping houses then, in regards to that you had experienced that doing it on the side and then started doing it more full time, and then you had the opportunity to bring in some crews and buying equipment. You also expressed experiencing some setbacks and having success after those setbacks. How do you continue to push forward towards success when you experience setbacks?
Yeah, so this might be a little cliche, but I have this fortune sitting on my desk. Got this a
Yeah.
while back,
Okay.
and it says, "Don't wait for success. Start ahead without it." A
Hmm.
lot of times these fortunes are silly or they might seem meaningless, but this one
Yeah.
really resonated with me because, like, I can tell you, there have been so many times in my career where I've just like sat and looked and said, like, where's the path forward? How am I
Yeah.
gonna do this? Right? I
Right.
don't have what I need to get to where I want to go.
Yep.
But every time, even before I got this fortune, every time I'm in that position, I say to myself, you know what? I just have to start. I have to start. I don't want to wait for the success. I have to start ahead without it. So for
Okay.
me, what I found to work is that when I'm in that moment of like overwhelm of like, wow, look at all these things that need to be done.
Yep.
I can't possibly, to me, it's like I can't possibly do them. And then in parentheses, it's at the same time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yep.
that's kind of the way I'm thinking. So I just say, you know what? What can I do right now? I might not
Yes.
have all the tools, all the skills, all the solutions, but I've got the intellect, right? I've got the time, I've got the energy. Let me combine those three things and start taking action. And for me,
Yes.
when I start taking action over time, right, that mountain becomes less of a mountain, right? And it
Yeah.
becomes so much more surmountable. So that's been the key. I mean, I can think of examples like when I was, doing the house flipping, it was incredibly rewarding. I mean, I can't
Yeah.
describe how rewarding it is to, buy a few houses on a block, renovate them, and have the neighbors come and bring you flowers or cakes or,
Sure.
candy because they're happy, right? And to have
Right.
new homeowners buy a house and be happy, right? But it's not all candy and roses in that business. I can tell
Yeah.
you, situations where, as I was phasing out, I had what I called toxic inventory.
Okay.
Properties that I had purchased, not a lot of money, but nonetheless needed to be done with them. And maybe the
Right.
best thing to do in an ideal world would have been to renovate each one and sell them. But what I
Yep.
chose to do at that time was to take action to find a path forward. I sold some of the properties, as is, made a little bit of money. Some of them I lost
Yep.
money on. But
Yep.
at the end of the day, when those actions were taken, those properties were liquidated, I felt so much better and so much lighter.
Oh
And to
yeah.
this day, whenever I have tasks that are overwhelming, I just keep going. I take action and I focus on what I can do right now at this moment. What
Yeah.
actionable items can I do now that will help me to get where I want to go? I don't need to be there now. I'm not there now. But if I take these steps, I will be soon.
Yeah. Yeah. Could you reread that fortune that you had read?
Yeah, absolutely. So it says, don't wait for success, start ahead without it.
There you go. I like that. And I like that you take action now for what you can accomplish. And in spite of all of the tasks that can create that overwhelm that people experience, when you can take those initial steps towards that goal, you can then take the next step, find out what the next step needs to be, take that step, and keep moving forward. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And what people see, I want to make it very clear that what people see on the outside is almost never an indication of what was really going on. Yeah.
Sure.
Like thankfully I've been successful in my field, but
Yeah.
I've had so many struggles and so many challenges. And I can guarantee you anyone who has achieved success themselves, right? It wasn't given to them, which is
Yeah.
99% of the people that are out there that have that success. They've had those setbacks, right? And they have
Yeah.
those challenges. So just know, like in this journey, in this mission, you are 100% never alone.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's a very good point because people do sometimes only see what's on the outside or what's at the end of the journey. And they
Right.
don't necessarily see the steps that were taken to get to that end. And so they don't think that they can accomplish that or that they can compare or relate to that person, but that's not the true reality. So, now let's talk about what you're doing now with regards to the brokerage and how you are seeing that as your continued ongoing path forward because before you've kind of had opportunities that you've been able to shift from and didn't fully settle in, but now it feels and seems, and as you stated, sounds like this is an area you feel like you can settle in for the long term and continue to grow, flourish, and help other people with the work that you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've settled into this industry. I love this industry. I'm very passionate about it. I've been,
Yeah,
involved in real estate in one way or another for almost 20 years. And, my plan is to be here for the long haul.
yeah,
I love what I do. I love helping people. Quite frankly, I love the thrill of finding the deal and then of putting the parties together and then working through
yep,
all the different nuances as the deal, traverses through on its way through escrow to closing. So I definitely really, enjoy it. And for me, this is a path towards freedom.
yeah,
I think, before like, as I talked about with Disability Made Easy, like the driving force was like, hey, there's Joe, like,
Hmm.
we want to help
Yep.
people, and that's great. And today, my driving forces are, yes, I'm helping people. I'm helping people in a very different way, but I'm helping people. I'm solving
Yes.
problems, right?
Right.
Sometimes I'm listing properties that are problem properties for the seller and opportunities for the buyer. So I'm
Yeah.
helping both of those people. So there's definitely that aspect of it. But in addition, for me, it's always been important to support my family,
Yeah.
and I have 5 kids, right? Which most people at my age don't have, and they're amazing and they're blessings, and I love them very, very much. And for me, part of my mission through this is like what I'm doing is helping me to support them, but it's
Yeah.
also helping me to train them and show them that they can be whatever they want to be. If they want to be a commercial real estate broker, great. If they want to be an astronaut, great. Whatever they want to do, set their mind to. I'm a firm believer in like a mindset setting reality.
Yeah.
So that really helps me. And then ultimately, I want to be in a place where I'm an owner of a commercial property portfolio, and I'm able to have that freedom, to
Yep.
have that passive income to be able to do whatever I want, which will probably still include brokerage because I enjoy it.
Sure. Yeah.
But it'll give me, just a little bit more freedom.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that in regards to the benefits of commercial real estate investing. Where do you see that being a benefit or value? Talk a little bit more about that for an individual who may not have that experience and doesn't quite understand, and they currently only invest in the stock market, or maybe they're just putting money back into their own business. What's some of the values that are brought to an investor who is looking at
Yeah.
commercial properties?
I mean, for me personally, a sizable percentage of my anxiety can be directly attributed to, the stock market. So like
Sure.
I look at it, I'm working on a deal in Michigan in Grand Rapids, another shopping center. And I was talking to the
Yep.
owner yesterday, and he was talking about his stock portfolio and how, certain companies that he's held for a while, he watched them, lose 40 or 50% of their value recently.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
I personally, like, I mean, I don't even want to,
I
get
know.
into the
Yeah.
bad deals I've gotten in stocks, right? Like,
Yeah.
if I was a stockbroker, I would tell everybody not to listen to me. Thankfully, I'm a commercial real estate broker, and I know
Yep.
that I give good advice and provide value. But in all
Right.
seriousness, I've made some good picks, right? But if I look at my portfolio, I look at companies where I remember, like Netflix or Target. I bought them when they were low, and I watched them soar, and I was so happy. And I was like, man, I am the man. This is
Yeah.
amazing. Great
Right.
picks, right? And then what happened? Both those stocks came crashing down. So all of that, like,
Sure.
artificial or fake value that I had in those increases, it got vaporized in a short period of
Yeah.
time. So I
Right.
was talking to this client of mine yesterday, and I said,
Hmm.
"Can you imagine if in 3 weeks I called you and I said, hey, you know, your building, I know I told you it was worth 2.4 million, but now it's worth 1.1 million. Sorry, right?
Yeah.
That doesn't happen. Commercial real estate doesn't suffer from the same, you know, I don't even bipolar swings
Yeah.
of the stock
Right.
market, right? So for me, I like the fact that commercial real estate has relatively stable values that do appreciate over time. I like
Yep.
that there's security and stability, specifically in my niche, which is net lease, right? Which is,
Okay.
properties that are typically leased out to major national tenants. There's
Yep.
added security because your tenant is a huge corporation, right? You typically have built-in rental escalations in the actual lease. So not only do you know how much you're going to be getting this year and every single year of the lease, you have that hedge against inflation, which is really, really important,
Yep.
right? And real estate is the backbone and cornerstone of this country, right? All of the major family offices and trusts and funds invest in commercial real estate. It's
Right.
typically very well located, it's secure, it's stable, it appreciates, and it can provide that passive income. In some cases,
Yeah.
like the absolute triple net stuff that I do, they're coupon clippers. You do nothing. You have no expense responsibility. The tenant pays
Right.
for everything, right? You just clip
Yep.
that coupon, so to speak, or more likely you receive that ACH payment or that check in the mail every single month,
Yep.
like clockwork. So there's so many benefits to it. You can leverage it, right? So if it goes up in value, you can refinance and pull out equity.
Right.
You can buy more than you have, through leverage, which in many cases, increases your cash on cash returns. So just a
Right.
lot of advantages to real estate. Um, There's tax advantages, there's depreciation, which can be accelerated in many cases. There's the fact that, you can, when you own the property, at least according to the tax code today, section 1031 of the IRS tax code
Hmm.
allows you to do a 1031 exchange and defer
Okay.
your gains and not pay taxes on the sale, right? Which
Right.
allows you to have more buying power. And you can keep doing that, keep doing that, keep doing that. And the adage is, 1031 until you die, because
Hmm.
when a person passes away and it's inherited by their heirs, it's now reevaluated and they have what's called a stepped up tax basis. So you
Hmm.
theoretically can continue to defer taxes for generations, and every time that the owner passes, your tax basis goes up and up and up, and your taxes go down, down, down in terms of what your liability will be.
Sure.
Those things don't exist in the stock market.
Right. Yeah. No, I think you just listed a whole length list of advantages in investing in the real estate industry. And I think especially with that triple net lease description that you provided, I think there's a lot
Yeah,
of opportunities there for somebody who is looking at getting into commercial real estate or just real estate investment in general. I think that there are people who are only considering buying single family houses because that's all they think that they can get into. So I think there is a little bit bigger world out there that goes beyond the residential neighborhoods and individual family homes. And I know some people that will get a portfolio of family homes, and now that they're managing that many family homes, it becomes a challenge to continue to manage them all. Whereas if they could put all of that equity that they have in these homes into a larger property, now they've freed themselves up and they put it all in one or maybe a couple of different locations so that they can be able to have the advantages that you've just described. Yeah.
absolutely.
So, and if somebody was interested in finding out more specifically about work that you do and investing in commercial real estate, or maybe somebody's listening and says, "Oh my gosh, I have a commercial real estate property and I don't even know what I need to do with this to get it sold." How would somebody reach out to you, Dan?
Yeah, so first of all, I'm very active on LinkedIn. You can follow me there or reach out with a message. First name is Dan, last name is Lewkowicz, Lewkowicz. Again, Lewkowicz. You can also reach me, give out my direct line, my cell phone. It's 248-943-2838. Again, 248-943-2838. If there's anything I can do to provide value, please reach out. If you have property and you want it evaluated or you just want a second set of eyes on it, yeah, please, anything I can do to be of assistance or provide value, I'm always happy to help.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll definitely add that to the show notes too, so that people have that available to them. Now, before I let you go here, I want to ask one question that I like to ask all my guests. If you were to be handed $1 million today, no restrictions, what would you do with that to invest in your business or another endeavor, and why?
Oh, that's such a good question. So I'd probably earmark about $50,000 to immediately invest in my brokerage business,
Yep.
because I think that the return on that investment will far exceed anything that I can invest in. I
Okay.
would like to, take the remaining capital, and if it makes sense, it's a little bit more challenging today with the current interest rate environment
Yeah.
and lack of tremendous movement in cap rates. But if it made sense, I'd leverage that, 900 and $50,000 or so,
Yep.
and buy a building that's maybe, let's say, around $3 million, right?
Yep.
Maybe a shopping center. Probably at this stage, I'd buy like what I would call a value add shopping center. So I'd buy
Hmm.
something that had below market rents, or possibly some leases that were rolling over in the near term,
Yeah.
and I would then go ahead and raise the rents, possibly flip the shopping center after or hold it. But with that kind of investment, you can expect, especially that kind of investment, if you paid cash, you can expect a return of probably somewhere around 200 grand a year, maybe a little more, depending
Yeah.
on the market. Obviously, if you're leveraging it, your actual net operating income is going to go down because you have debt service. But with
Right.
that kind of income from that one deal, that provides a certain level of security and stability to fund my
Yeah.
lifestyle, so that I have more freedom to do things that I enjoy. That's probably what I would do. I mean, the other avenue perhaps would be, I just listed a deal about 30 minutes ago. It's a former
Yep.
Burger King.
Okay.
I'd buy a deal like that, put a new tenant in the property at a as high of a rental rate as possible, as long of a lease term as possible, the best credit possible for the tenant. Offer them a certain amount of money to renovate the property to their specs, and then
Yep.
flip it. So I would
Yep.
I would essentially try to be doing that. I don't know. There's that old story of or that website where somebody gets like a paperclip and then trades it for something else and trades it for something
Yes.
else. I love that
Yep.
idea, and you can do that in real estate to a certain extent. So I
Yep.
would take that $1 million and make it into something more. But again, the most important thing is I would reinvest that in my business because
Yeah.
that's going to give me a better return than anything else I've described.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. So it is clear that you would invest it in what you're doing,
Yeah,
in yourself, in the business, and also in real estate. It's what you believe in, it's what you do, and what you know. So, Dan, I really appreciate your insights today and the journey that you've shared with us. And I look forward to continuing to see how you progress through this oncoming years. I'm excited. I wish you the best.
yeah. Thank you so much for having me on. This is a lot of fun. I appreciate it. And again, if anybody wants to reach out, I'd love to make new connections and provide value. So yeah, thank you again so much.
Absolutely. Take care.